When Tertullian took up the pen to defend the faith, I am Tertullian. And I want to begin with something that might sound absurd. Faith is certain precisely because it appears impossible. Yes, that is exactly what I said. If everything you believe must be perfectly reasonable to your logic, perhaps you will never encounter the deepest truth. After all, have you ever noticed that it is often the improbable that changes history? The blood of the martyrs, for instance, which seemed nothing but tragedy, became the seed of the church. Is it not shocking to consider that from death sprang life? That is exactly what I want to reflect upon with you today. I grew up in the midst of a pagan culture. From a very young age, I was immersed in the classics of literature, in law, in philosophy, in the art of speaking before a crowd. My destiny seemed already written: follow the path of Rome, pursue honors and prestige within the empire. Yet something inside me began to burn, a restlessness that refused to let me be at peace. The question was simple, but unsettling. Why does everyone seem to follow the same current, never pausing to ask where it leads? Perhaps you too have felt this, the sensation of living a life that is not truly your own, but merely a repetition of what others expect from you. When I decided to write on Christian themes, I chose Latin, the tough, practical language of law and of the people. And what happened? I was criticized. Every intellectual of my time wrote in Greek. That was the language of philosophy, refinement, and the elite. To go against that tide was to row against a furious current. But it was not just a linguistic choice. It was a declaration of identity. I was announcing to the world that I did not wish to speak only to the scholars, but also to the common, the simple, the forgotten. Perhaps you see yourself in this. How many times have you held back from taking a bold step because of fear of judgment? Because you thought, they will laugh at me, they will think I am less? The truth is that the courage to think differently always provokes resistance. Yet it is also what opens new paths. Look around you. How many times have you caught yourself repeating the same work routine, swallowing words that are not yours just to be accepted? Deep inside you know this suffocates your authenticity. I remember one occasion when I presented an idea before older, respected colleagues, and they looked at me as though I were a fool. The silence in that room was suffocating, and for an instant I nearly retreated. But I did not. And later, those very words once ridiculed spread and bore fruit. This dynamic never changes. Consider Galileo Galilei. Centuries after me, he dared to say that the earth was not the center of the universe. The cost was persecution, humiliation, the near erasure of his voice. But today, who remembers those who condemned him? The entire world recognizes the value of his boldness. The same could be said of more recent figures like Steve Jobs, who believe that those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who actually do. Is that not proof that the courage to go against the current always leaves a deeper mark than the cowardice of conformity? And there is something even more personal in this. We are not speaking only of history, but of life itself. How many times have you wondered if the work you do today truly expresses who you are? How many times have you swallowed your opinion in conversation for fear of seeming strange? How many dreams have you locked away because someone said they were impossible? If these questions hurt, it is because truth is knocking at your door. I faced the same struggle. I grew up in an environment that pointed me toward becoming just another liar serving the empire. But when I encountered faith in Christ, I realized I had to write differently. It was not a mere desire, it was an urgency. I knew that if I did not take that step, I would be betraying not only my faith, but myself. Yes, it was frightening. But believe me, it is more frightening to live imprisoned by fear than to be free in risk. Do not think I was some hero without doubts. There were nights when I asked myself if I was making the greatest mistake of my life, if I would be forgotten, erased, perhaps even punished. This is where I want to connect with you. Have you ever lain awake at night, tormented by a decision you had to make? Have you thought, what if everything goes wrong? That anguish is universal. But here is what I discovered. True failure is not in making mistakes, but in never trying. Modern psychology now confirms what we already intuited centuries ago. Those who take calculated risks and live according to their values show higher levels of happiness and purpose. Those who spend life trying to please others often end bitter, sensing they have lived in vain. I saw this pattern in many around me who never dared to step out of the shadows. So let me propose something to you. Think of one area of your life where you have been hiding behind comfort. It might be your work, a relationship, or even the way you live out your faith and values. Now, for 1 week, decide to act differently. Do the thing you have postponed because you fear judgment. It may be saying words you have held back, writing what you truly believe, or taking a step toward a dream long buried. Try it. Then observe how it changes the way you see yourself. I know it is not easy. I lived it. But had I not dared to choose Latin instead of Greek, to speak to the ordinary instead of the erudite, my voice might have been just one more lost in history. Boldness is always a risk, but it is the only way to leave a legacy. And you? Will you choose silence to be accepted or boldness to be remembered? While many wasted themselves in endless philosophical debates, trying to fit faith into human frameworks, I realized I had to bring clarity. Faith is not a tangled knot of abstract ideas. It is life, it is practice, it is foundation. It was in that context that I shaped something that endured through the centuries. God is one substance in 3 persons. For some, it sounded like paradox, even madness. But tell me, how many times have you felt yourself divided into parts, not knowing how to unite everything within you? Work on one side, family on another, spirituality forgotten in some corner, and still that inner search for meaning. It is as if we live fractured. I knew that anguish well. I myself lived it. I was a lawyer, an orator, a thinker, but also a Christian. How could I reconcile all these without feeling like an imposter in each? The formula of the Trinity helped me see that multiple personas can share the same essence. That changed everything. It meant I did not need to give up one part of who I was in order to exist in another. Just as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit share the same sovereignty, I could be multiple without being broken. And you? How many times have you felt forced to choose between being professional or being human, between being a dreamer or being practical? I recall a day in court, surrounded by judges and lawyers, when I felt the crushing weight of contradiction. My Roman-trained mind fought against the soul yearning for the simplicity of faith. That day, I realized I did not have to choose between them. My essence remained the same no matter my role. It was liberating. Perhaps you too have experienced something like this, trying to be one person at work and another entirely at home. But how long can anyone live divided without feeling empty? Modern research now shows that people who align their personal values with their professional life enjoy higher levels of well-being and emotional longevity. Is it not remarkable to see science confirm what we intuited so long ago? That is why I say, unity is not just a theological doctrine, it is a vital principle. It is also a remedy against the anxiety corroding so many. Today, inner fragmentation breeds conflict, and ongoing conflict sickens the soul. But where there is alignment, there is peace. Consider someone like Nelson Mandela. He could have been only a lawyer, or only an activist, or only a prisoner. But he was all of these in one essence, the pursuit of justice. His multiplicity did not fracture him. It strengthened him. He proves it is possible to live different roles without losing inner coherence. But we have also seen the opposite. Think of artists who maintained a brilliant public life while hiding addictions and despair in private. Many could not endure and collapsed within because they lacked unity. So here is my challenge. Have you been living in pieces or as a whole? Perhaps you are trying to fit into roles that do not match your essence. Perhaps you have wondered, am I two people in one life? If this echoes within you, it is time to seek reconciliation with yourself. It is not about abandoning who you are in one area, but allowing your essence to shine in all of them. I learned this through tears, through nights of doubt, through fear of not being accepted anywhere. But I also discovered the joy of realizing I can be whole in every space. And now I propose something to you. Over the next 7 days, observe if you are acting consistently across all areas of your life. Ask yourself before each decision, does this reflect who I truly am? Write down your answers. At week's end, see if contradictions remain that need resolution. This simple exercise can reveal where you are fragmented and where unity must be sought. Do not be deceived. Living in fragments may appear easier, but only unity brings lasting peace. I found that truth in the mystery of the Trinity, and you can find it in your own life if you have courage to face what is broken within. I witnessed something that troubled me deeply. Men who should have led with humility began to claim absolute power to forgive any sin. At first, it seemed liberating, but I soon perceived the hidden danger. If everything can be forgiven without repentance, what stops people from living however they wish? What happens to a community when responsibility disappears? I knew the answer. Morality dissolves, and with it human dignity. Perhaps you too have lived this on a smaller scale. How many times have you excused yourself with phrases like, "Everyone does it, it cannot be that wrong"? That soft voice that tries to ease our mistakes is treacherous. It soothes us for a moment but distances us from what gives life meaning. The truth is that when everything is permissible, nothing has value. I remember a concrete situation. In Carthage, I saw brothers once firm and dedicated now living in excess because they believed it was enough to run to the bishop, receive absolution, and carry on. I saw men betraying their wives without remorse, merchants exploiting the poor without fear, soldiers abusing power. It broke me. How could the faith that had transformed me be reduced to an excuse for irresponsibility? That was when I pursued a stricter, more disciplined path. Better to be called severe than to watch the community rot before my eyes. And you, have you asked yourself if your flexibility is really self-deception? How many times have you used phrases like "nobody is perfect" or "life is short"? We must enjoy to justify actions that wound your conscience. I am not saying we must live in guilt, but we must live with integrity. Without it, emptiness soon comes. Look at recent history. Lance Armstrong was celebrated as a hero, inspiring millions, winning titles. But it all crumbled when truth came out. His victories were stained by doping. The whole world witnessed not only the fall of an athlete, but of a legacy. Talent can raise someone, but only character sustains them. Without character, downfall is certain. Modern studies in human behavior confirm that living in contradiction between values and actions raises levels of anxiety and depression. It is as if body and mind demand payment for self-deception. On the other hand, those who align beliefs and actions experience greater emotional balance and well-being. Have you noticed how sleeping with a clear conscience is worth far more than any fleeting pleasure? I know that speaking of discipline and integrity sounds harsh in a world where everything is relative, where the word right seems to have lost meaning. But it was exactly that laxity that stirred me to react. I preferred to face criticism, to be called radical, than to accept a faith that does not transform. So here is my challenge. For the next 3 days, choose one area of your life where you have allowed small compromises in speech, finances, relationships, and live with absolute integrity. Just 3 days. Then observe how that decision impacts your inner peace. Laxity may feel comfortable, but it corrodes. Discipline may seem hard, but it builds a solid foundation. I saw entire communities destroyed because they chose the easy path. I do not want that for you. Choose integrity, for the cost of laxity is always greater than the effort of discipline. Perhaps the most painful part of my journey was realizing many of the battles I fought would not be won in my time. I saw the clergy gaining ever more privilege. I saw principles I defended with passion being ignored or distorted. It was like crying out in the desert. And you? Have you ever felt that what you do has no effect, as though you were invisible? I too felt that. But then I understood something greater. Legacy is not born of haste, but of constancy. I wrote knowing I might never see the fruits. I wrote beyond myself. I wondered, will my words still echo when I am gone? And the answer came, yes. Centuries later, they still speak. That makes me ask you, have you considered what you will leave when you are no longer here? One night, this truth marked me deeply. I was alone, weary of so much criticism, disheartened by so little result. I picked up a scroll and nearly gave up writing. Nearly. But then I imagined someone, far in the future, reading my words and finding in them strength not to give up. That vision gave me courage. I wrote not for the present, but for the future. Perhaps you too need that now. To stop living only for the moment and begin planting seeds for generations you will never see. History is full of such examples. Martin Luther King did not see the end of the struggle for racial equality, yet his words still transform. Nelson Mandela spent decades imprisoned, not knowing if freedom would come, but his perseverance inspired a nation. What do they show us? That legacy is not measured by the length of life, but by what we choose to give, day by day. Modern science also confirms this principle. Research shows that people with a sense of purpose, larger than their own lives, display greater resilience and even longer lifespans. Living only for the now may feel pleasurable, but it is long-term purpose that gives life its deepest meaning. Ask yourself, will the hours you spend today on distractions and vices be remembered? Or will your life be remembered because you dared to plant something that flourished afterward? I know it can feel heavy to think about legacy while you still have so much to handle today. But the truth is, legacy is not built only at the end. It is built in every choice you make now. Every word you speak, every gesture, every attitude toward injustice is writing the story others will read. So here is a challenge. Over the next 7 days, do something intentionally for the generations to come. Plant a tree, teach a child or a friend something of value, write a letter about what you believe, help someone without expecting anything in return. At the end of the week, ask yourself, if I were gone, would this have mattered? That simple exercise can change how you see your own life. I learned that we do not always see the fruits of what we plant, but they will sprout. Sooner or later, you must decide, when your life is only memory, will you be remembered for what you consumed or for what you built? Time passes, life slips away, but legacy remains. And what you leave behind can inspire someone, just as my words have now reached you. If there is one thing I want you to carry from this message, it is this: the courage to live in truth, without masks, without fragmentation, without surrender to moral laxity. That is what builds a legacy that endures. What you do today may seem small, but it is precisely what shapes tomorrow. And if you have stayed with me until now, you have already taken an important step. Now I invite you to climb one more step on this path of wisdom, to become 1% better than you are right now. The next reflection is already before you, and in it we will go even deeper on this journey. Thank you for your attention. It has been an honor to share this time with you. I await you in the next reflection.